Hi, Audrey.
Hey, Amy.
I wanted to do a little video interview between the two of us because I know that as cuddle facilitators, we get a lot of questions about who we are and what we do. So, yeah, let's do this, shall we?
Absolutely.
So, who are we?
Who are we? We are body positive, touch positive people who love bringing more joy into the world.
Mm,
You have
yeah,
anything to add to
love
that?
that. Yeah, I guess I'll just share that, my beginnings in this. I initially started through the authentic relating community and then started branching into touch positive cuddle events. And I did train with Cuddleist, and that's just been a great experience. And I love bringing this work to the world. How about you? How did you come about this?
Well, I heard about cuddle parties about 10 years ago. It might have even been from you, but I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I found myself really craving some touch that wasn't relationship based and went and found them this year. And they were everything I hoped they would be and more. I was on the best oxytocin high, and I got so many consent and boundary skills that I've used everywhere. And I started becoming like the cuddle ambassador, like, come carpool with me to the cuddle event. So then I just went and took the training so that I could offer them closer to home.
You're in it to win it. I love it.
Hmm.
Cool. So let's talk about what is a cuddle party? Do you want to start or should I?
Oh, go ahead. What is a cuddle party, Amy?
Hmm. So I think of cuddle parties as a safe space to experience nurturing platonic touch. So the way that I typically run my events is I bring everybody in. We do maybe a little attunement exercise, some kind of like breath, sound, movement to get people comforted in the space. And from there, I do the rules. So we go over, like you have to ask for and receive a verbal yes about a specific request before you can touch another person. And we talk about the confidentiality and just the various rules of the party. And then I like to do some connection games to get people bonded in together. Sometimes I like to ask, um, what brought you here tonight? Or, what associations do you have when you hear the word touch? Something like that. And so, in starting these conversations, people tend to feel more comfortable. And so then, I'll do some teaching about consent and boundaries and various things. And then I slowly guide people into experiential exercises where they get to practice touch, but, focusing at all times on safety, really reminding everybody you can pause, you can adjust, and you can exit at any time if you're feeling uncomfortable. No shame, no judgment. We're here to help each other. We're here to nurture and care for each other. So, yeah. How about you? What comes to mind for you?
So I think that you and I have a lot of overlap in how we facilitate. Some things that come to mind in addition to what you said are that when I have an event, there are two or three exercises that don't even involve touch that work on consent and boundaries before we even get to actual physical touch, so that you have your words, the people you're working with have all gotten the same clear message of what consent and boundaries mean, and you've had a chance to practice that before you move into using it where the stakes are a little higher with touch. So low stakes to begin with. And then the other piece is that I just want to let everybody know that you're at a cuddle party, but there's no need to ever actually touch anybody. If you just want to come, hang out, experience it, and, just watch, that is full participation. Everything is optional except for abiding by the rules. And so you can have as much or as little touch as you decide works for you. And I think some people there could be an assumption that you're jumping into a pile of people or a full body cuddle. You
Yeah.
can start sitting next to someone and asking to hold hands. You can sit next to someone and just chat. You can eye gaze. So there's a lot of small incremental things that you could choose to do before going into more touch, or choose to never go into more touch.
Yeah. I love that you touched on that. I think that the verbal part of things in the beginning, where you're just talking about things and, slowly easing your way into it if you feel like it, right? And how, watching is valid participation, 100%. So yeah, I like that you touched on that.
Yeah, I think the overall message I'd like to give about what is a cuddle party is that it is gradual and gentle and experiential, and nothing is expected of you other than simply being present and abiding by the rules that are there to keep everybody comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes me think of another question that I get asked a lot, which is like how do you make it comfortable or safe to cuddle with strangers? And so I think we already started to talk about that, right? There's this container that we're setting where there are rules, and you have a facilitator who is watching and is available and is listening and responsive to what's happening in the room and making sure that things are going smoothly. And yeah, I think just that focus on consent, I think so many of us don't learn about consent until we're already well into our adulthood. And so, to have that opportunity to rewire our brains and like, oh, I don't have to just comply with something, I have the ability to say no. And I'm in this group space where everybody's watching, so it's harder to kind of cross a boundary when there's so many people holding you accountable.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, is that differentiation between, I would not go to a room full of strangers without a container created
Yeah.
and just feel comfortable cuddling strangers. But that's not what we're doing at a cuddle party. There's explicit agreements. There is, as you said, a facilitator. We're all getting the same education. So you're coming into a space created to make this possible to explore, as opposed to the outside world where consent is not explicit, is not necessarily verbal. I wish that it was, but that's not where our society is right now. And when I talk about cuddle parties to people, when I think about my first experience, when I came out of that first party, in addition to just feeling so full, the other thing I felt was, we should have learned all of this in kindergarten.
Yes, I felt the same way.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how has this impacted how you raise your child?
Yes, because Amy and I both have kids.
We do.
Um, yes. So for me, it's helped me to educate her more about consent and what that means, both in her experience of other people interacting with her and her experience of how she's interacting with other people. And that includes me. So I've been able to give her a greater awareness of what consent is, right? And beyond sexuality. That's about the only place we teach it,
Yeah.
is with sexuality, but there's everywhere else, every relationship you have. So, and then in addition to that, I have tried to be much more aware of getting her consent for doing things that before to me were automatic. So I no longer hug her without asking her.
Hmm.
I have a lot less expectation of her without having a conversation about, hey, I'm thinking this. Are you okay with that? So there's a lot more explicit communication between us, which has really helped our relationship. And I have seen it I've seen her generalize that and use it with friends. So she has better communication skills now and a greater ability to ask for what she wants and needs and say no.
Mm, I love that. It made me think of, I was lucky to encounter Wheel of Consent, um, when my son was younger, and I knew like this is something important, especially because I'm raising a young man, and there's a lot going on with toxic masculinity these days, and we're really trying to shift the culture and make it more acceptable for men to be more tender, allowed and accepted to be in their feelings, um, and to have boundaries, and so yeah, with my son, I remember I started asking him, hey, would you like a hug? And then I would pause and say, wait, before we hug, do you actually want to hug? And do
Mm,
you want a hug because you genuinely want one, or are you just hugging me because you know that I would like one? And so
mhm.
that opened up a lot of different conversations. Um, and watching him get to do that with his friends, like you were saying, like watching them put these practices out into their everyday lives and their everyday interactions, it feels really good to know that it's easy to spread.
Yes, yes. I wish I'd learned it earlier on like you had. I came to it later. One thing I'd like to add to that, you brought up toxic masculinity.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things we don't talk about in the same terms is what I call toxic femininity.
Yeah.
And part of that to me is the people pleasing and the saying yes when I don't want to and I don't really mean it. And I think cuddle parties address both parts of that in the consent work, which is, it's create your boundaries and say them clearly without apology, right? That addresses a fair amount of what I would see as the toxic femininity. And
Mhm.
then there's also the part where you learn to accept someone else's no and not take it
Yes.
defensively
Yes.
and learn to see no as something beautiful. It's clarifying. I want to know that you can say no to me because then I know I can trust when you say yes to me.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's one of the single most important lessons that I have learned over the years throughout various different touch events is just how important it is to really like take into your body and into your system. Like, I have every right in the world to say no to something that I don't want, and I'm not responsible for someone else's feelings. And they're not
Mm-hmm.
responsible for my feelings if I want something and they can't meet me there. So that has been a lesson that has continued to deepen and deepen and deepen for me over the years. So,
Yeah, absolutely. The untangling of responsibilities and getting clarity on where mine start and where yours start and end in relation, right?
mhm.
There's not, I think we think of them as all tangled up, or I did before. They're all tangled up and played off each other, but now I realize my part is pretty concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
So I have a lot of people ask, how do you keep cuddle events from turning sexual?
Yes, super common question.
Yeah. Did you want to
Hmm.
start on that or should I?
I can start and then have you flow in. So one thing that it starts off with, that I start off with is, this is a non-sexual and platonic event. It's advertised that way. It's absolutely made clear in the facilitation. And so that expectation is set from the beginning. So that allows people to weed themselves out if they were looking for a different kind of event. They're recognizing that this isn't that event.
Yeah.
And then it's also about that creation of the container where you're verbally setting the expectations. We're going through consent. We're going through rules. And I'll let you go ahead from there.
Something I like to mention in my events is, when you're in this space, when you're in this container, it's really important to me that we are all holding each other in pure love, not love
Mm,
with agenda necessarily, not like wanting to get something from somebody, but we're all here in this attitude of nurturance. And
mhm,
so I give the example of, when you're coming into contact with somebody, you're going to bring the same energy that you would bring if you were hugging a grandparent or holding a baby. And
mm,
so I think that that really helps people envision, like, oh, yeah, like this is not a dating situation. This is not a hookup thing. I'm not here to get numbers or a cop a feel. Like, I'm hugging my grandma, I'm holding a baby. Like, this is about pure love. And so I think that that has really helped. And I've actually, people say after the events, they're like, I'm really glad that you offered that example because it really helped me get in the zone. So,
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I really like that way of putting it. I think that does add a lot of clarity, and I might use that the next time I host
Mhm.
an event. I think another piece of it is that I know that both of us acknowledge and name that arousal happens. It's a
Yeah.
natural part of being a human.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with it, but at this event, you're not going to act on your arousal. The
Hmm.
same way you don't act on your arousal all day long. If you find someone cute at work, you're not acting on that arousal because it's not a situation where that is, you know, a safe space for that.
Yeah.
Cuddle party is no different, and we're all used to compartmentalizing that and only following through with action on it if the situation warrants it or is the right place for it.
Hmm. I thought of something else I sometimes say during my events. I say, like, for tonight, I'm the mama bear and you are all my cubs, and I'll be keeping a watchful eye on my cubs. It depends on the group that's there tonight, but or uh, sorry, the group that's there for that particular night. But
Mhm,
yeah, I love creating safety. I think that once you get people feeling safe and they can kind of let their guard down and just receive nurturing touch, like
mhm.
watching their little melty faces is everything to me. Yeah.
I agree. The way that people, the difference between where people are at when they come into the event and where they are by the end is just like a beautiful process to watch of,
Mm.
practicing, feeling safer, trying out some vulnerability, and turning into those puddles of happy goo. Um, and one
Yeah.
of the things that I have really found for myself is that, um, I have a partner, so I have touch in my life in a relationship way, but the touch that I get at a cuddle party fills me up in a different way. There is something healing to me on like a humanity societal level about being in a safe space to cuddle strangers and connect with someone where I don't know their politics. I don't know what their job is. I really effectively know nothing about them other than they've chosen to come into this space and participate and work with these rules. And I'll sit in somebody's lap and have my face in their chest and be there for 30 minutes. And we're both just feeling bliss and
Mhm.
we had this connection. And I actually don't need to know anything else about them. They're a human who's willing to be vulnerable and work with me explicitly with consent so I can be safe with them and have that experience. And there's just something beautiful about that that reminds me that some of these things out there in the world that are so hard, if we could connect more humanity to humanity instead of belief system to belief system, we could
Yeah.
find some collaborative space.
Yeah. I also thought about, the whole reason, well, I don't want to say the whole reason, but one of the reasons that cuddle parties I think are so valuable is because in your day-to-day life, you really are just maybe handshaking, high five, you might get like a half hug. Most people don't get like a solid block of time where they're cuddling unless you have cuddly family members or a cuddly partner. you know, a lot of times you're not really getting your needs met for touch, especially, you know, if you think about times when you have a really hard day at work, or, you know, some other kind of issue that's really stressing you out. Like sometimes you just need to be held. And so I'm really feeling into that right now.
Mhm.
This image of like somebody who's just come in from like a really hard day, and they just are here dropping into this safe space, learning about consent, talking about emotional and physical safety, and then getting to practice these different kinds of touch. And
Mhm.
I think another thing that I really like about parties is that everybody touches differently, right? We each have our own unique energy and our own way of encountering another body. So sometimes you're gonna like this light flowing touch from somebody, or sometimes you just want a bear hug, you know, and being able to ask for that specific way of being touched, you know, like I don't want to just be handled, you know, in an impersonal way. It's like how do I need to receive touch? And getting used
Mhm.
to articulating that with people, I think is so valuable.
I agree. And I think the other part of that for a fair amount of us coming in is we may not even know what we like for touch. We may not have had the space to figure that out. And
Yeah.
so it's also, a place of experimentation.
Yeah.
What do I like? I'll try this. Oh, I don't like it. I can change my mind right in the moment and try something else. And the other thing that came to mind when you were talking about our need for touch is, there have been all these studies on touch with babies and small children. And we hear about things like kangaroo care and baby wearing
Yeah.
and, how that helps with brain development and co-regulation. And the thing I don't think we talk about is that that doesn't end when you turn a certain age.
Yeah.
We still need those things, but there's not a built-in place to get them.
Mm.
And, outside of a relationship, we don't have a lot of avenues for that in our culture. And even inside a relationship, it really depends on the other person and you and what each other's touch needs are. One of you might need more than the other.
Yeah.
One of you might really like to be touched in certain ways, and we may not be able to fill those needs even if we're partnered.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of research that shows that longevity of life, quality of life, our immune systems do better when we receive the touch we need.
Mm. And we all want to be healthy.
And we all want to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm feeling mushy just talking about this.
Hmm. The one of the things that I think we've touched on along the way, but maybe could be more clear on is what feedback do you get from the people that attend your events about what they walked away from? What did they get out of it?
I love that question. Yeah, I think, let's see, some of the feedback I get the most. Mm, a while back, in one of my events, I touched on the Greek flavors of love and how you can love people differently. And people were really, really receptive to that way of thinking. And yeah, just all the different information around consent. I think we go through our days so like unconsciously engaging with others, and we don't stop to think like, why am I hugging this person? We don't think about the intrinsic or extrinsic parts of it. And so I like hearing people say like, oh, it's amazing to really like roll back different scenarios that I've had and think, oh, am I doing this for you or am I doing this for me? You know? And
Mhm.
so another thing I like to touch on is impersonal versus personal touch. You know, sometimes you specifically want to experience something with one person, and other times it's just I could hug anybody. I could handshake anybody, it doesn't matter. So knowing that there's those two different ways, because I think that sometimes people get caught up in the one. And
Mm.
there's just so much learning. There's so much learning. I feel like as many parties as I've facilitated, there's always more to cover. There's always more to experience. There's so much deepening in this. So, yeah, I think just the deep sense of safety, of connection, of pure love. It's yeah, I think that's what I hear the most. Yeah. How
Yeah.
about you?
Um, Definitely the safety and community. I know at my last event, a number of people came to me and said, I just felt so safe tonight. And
Mm,
I think, there's a lot of places in day-to-day life where we don't have that comfort and it's a chance people talk about to slow down and really be in their body. I had someone that I talked to today who was explaining that this was really their first experience of presence or embodiment.
mm,
And she didn't even have those words for it, but she had the awareness that this was something new and how that was affecting her life in a positive way. Um, I hear a lot about less stress going forward to the week and having more energy
mm,
to do all the things that need to be done and kind of come from a place of joy instead of a place of depletion. And something I just want to add for myself that I hadn't thought of earlier is the other thing that you can get at a cuddle party that I don't know where else to get in my life is you can cuddle a bunch of people at once.
yes.
You can be in a puppy pile. You can be in a spoon drawer. I spent probably my first 5 cuddle parties in the middle of a spoon drawer, meaning I'm the little spoon and the big spoon to 2 different
Mhm,
people at the same time. And there's all of these arms and legs and deep pressure. And I haven't had any of that since I was a kid in my pile of siblings.
mhm.
And it's something I missed. And it's something some people have never had is to receive touch from multiple people and give touch to multiple people and have a community experience
Mhm.
of nurturing touch.
Yeah. Oh, I'm like going back through my Rolodex of memories of like
Mm.
different moments when, we've had pileups and things, and sometimes it's so soft and quiet. And then other times it's like giggly and just silly, and there's so much range, so
Mm.
much range in these events. So,
That brings me to another topic we haven't covered, feelings that
mm,
come up.
mm,
Getting the chance to drop in and really be in your body and receive nurturing and give nurturing leaves a lot of room for different emotions to come up. And those are welcome in cuddle events. And the container is really good at holding them. And so, tears happen, laughter happens, all sorts of things happen. And if something big comes up for somebody, that's what we facilitators are there for. We can
yeah,
come in and help support that person so that the other cuddle attendees aren't required to, be doing that emotional labor if they don't want to be at that point.
yeah.
Um, but it also just leaves a lot of room for people to be in process with themselves in a safe space for giggling and tears and everything in between.
Hmm. Oh, and what came up, sometimes I like to say I give gold stars for tears.
Mm.
I don't actually have gold stars, but I'll do the little here, gold stars. Um, I think being witnessed while crying is one of the most beautiful experiences. And so I definitely cry at my events. I get very mushy about certain things that people share. Um, and I love when other people are brave enough to cry in front of the group and really let themselves be seen. And I can't get enough of it. I'm tearing up right now just thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful experience, like you said, to witness and be witnessed. For me, there's something healing in being witnessed. And I think a lot of times emotion in our society is seen as being too much.
Mm,
And so for me, being witnessed in my tears or being able to witness someone else in theirs is giving and receiving the message that you're not too much.
yeah.
Your emotion is welcome. You know, it's reasonable. It makes sense.
Hmm.
It's okay to feel it here.
Yeah. Mm. I'm feeling all kinds of juicy acceptance happening.
Mm.
I love it.
Do you feel like there's anything we missed in this conversation?
I'm feeling pretty complete on this. I think I would just like you to share how people can access you. How can we find you online? What kind of events do you have? What kind of coaching do you offer? Let us know.
Okay, so you can find me at audreyhamel.com, which is AudreyHamel.com. And on Eventbrite, you can find my events under Audrey Hamel. But if you go to my website, there's links to that. I offer the Cuddle events currently. I am working on putting together some separation or divorce and reinvention support groups.
Mm.
And I am a personal coach and I work with people on all sorts of different topics, business to personal. The common thread that runs through them is I work with people who are ready for a change and they're struggling to find the way into that, but that are, people who are already open and looking to do that deep work. And
Mm.
that's what I love to sit down with people and help them tease things apart and find their aha moments and find that momentum to take them where they want to be and to identify where they want to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to see that too. Mm. And
Well,
what about you, Miss Amy?
well, first of all, I just want to say, as somebody who has been in session with you, you are an amazing coach, and I love the way that you are really present and you listen really well, and you always have this ability to find the word that I just spoke, like some kind of word or phrase, and you really zero in on it, and you're like, what's under there? Let's follow that. And I swear I've had some of my deepest awakenings with you, my biggest aha moments. And so um yeah,
Mm.
I love what you shared and that's really powerful.
Mm.
Let's see, for me, I also do coaching. I love working with people who are on this authenticity journey of discovering who they are, what they want, and how to go about it. And so I like there's something juicy for me in those moments of bravery where somebody is ready to say, "This is what I want, and I'm ready to go for it." And
Mhm.
I also like to do intimacy coaching for people who have struggles in certain relationships. You know, how can we work on your relationship and communication skills where you can improve things with your partner, family member, friend, coworkers? So that all feels really powerful to me. And then I offer authentic relating events. So this is a group space where people get to come together and practice being introspective and expressive, to practice attentive listening and expanding compassion and empathy. I think in hearing each other's stories in these events, a lot of people will say at the end, this whole time I thought that I was just this singular human who was wrong and bad and I was feeling this way and I'm the only one who feels this way and I'm doing it wrong. And then after hearing everyone else share, they're like, oh, wait a minute. This is a common human concern. We all go through some flavor of complexity and complication and challenges. So I love doing authentic relating events and also cuddle events. And you can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, Linktree, Eventbrite. Again, my name is Amy Leigh Curry. That's AMY. Middle name is Leigh, and the last name is Curry. I'll be posting the links for mine and Audrey's different methods of contact. And if you have questions about consent and boundaries and where to find a cuddle event, we are open and available for questions. So I hope you have enjoyed this interview. Audrey, any last words?
I just want to say that, as far as Amy's coaching and what she brings to the world, I have, wow, how long have we known each other now? A long time. I want to say 10 years. I have watched her dive deep into personal education and
Mhm.
all of these different varieties of things, and then synthesize them and offer them to the world. And she is my go-to person for so many different things. She is a wealth of knowledge.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm really thankful for our friendship and our collaboration and how we continue to support each other's growth.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I'm appreciating you so much right now. Mm. All right, that's it for today.
All right. Talk to you
Bye.
later.